And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano. This is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, let me ask you a question. Isn't it time? Isn't it time for us to take back control of this government?
Yeah,
before
amen.
this bureaucracy? Amen. Amen is right. Let me hear a few more amens around here. Of course, half the staff is asleep. That's why I pay them, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And the purpose of this program is to create a bridge so that you can cross from the land of political illusions to the land of human reality. This is not always pleasant, but once attained, I can guarantee you, you'll never turn back. And am I hacked off tonight? You bet I am. But before I get into that program, I want to introduce our guest this evening is Dr. Jerry Block. Jerry Block specializes in scientific and alternative medicine. He is a double-boarded in internal and urgent care medicine, spent many years as an educator on the faculties of UCLA Medical School, University of Missouri Medical School, and the
Joe, that's too much. That's
University
Joe. Joe, that's too much.
It's too much. Okay,
that's all right. Come on.
Jerry just told me it's too much. He really didn't do those things. I found him on the street. I felt sorry for him. Okay, he was at the School of Osteopathic Medicine.
Oh, Joe.
Just forget about it.
Talk about
Dr. Jerry Block is here in the studio.
We'll talk later.
And he's telling me exactly what to do. Things will never be the same.
No. Joe, I have a show too.
Oh, that's right. He has a show.
Not as dynamic as yours.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it is, too.
But maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow will be dynamic because you will be on my show.
All right, tomorrow I will be on his show. It's All Things Medical with Dr. Jerry Block on 1170 KFQ, 9 a.m. Central Time. Click in, listen in, okay? Call in.
Now, Joe, you'll probably be on the show tomorrow. Depends how we get along today.
All right, let me rephrase. I probably will not be on the show tomorrow.
Joe, I'm there. I'm there
point.
just by myself, and you're there with 9 other people. You have henchmen. You have the army. You have your army to take back the government.
Believe me, I don't invite them. They don't want to stay in the street. It gets cold or hot, so they come in here. That's all. That's the only reason why they come in here.
There's nowhere else to go.
Okay. Go ahead. Take over the government. I'll sit back and listen to you.
Boy, what an intro.
Boy, wow. what an intro.
How did we lose control of this situation?
Already we lost control. Well, folks, seriously, I've been listening to this patient care Affordability Act or whatever you want to call it. Was it the Patient Protection and Affordability Act debacle as you have? And I would like to just paint a slightly different picture. I want to discuss it from a different angle. Of course, you know what we've been hearing about the people having problems, etc. But I have problems before that. I think that we are talking about the afterbirth. I want to talk about the prior birth. I want to find how the hell did we get here in the first place? Just think for a second. There is a program, right, and they anticipate that the computer program alone, the software, in order to the website will cost $1/2 of $1 billion. Now, do you think there's some sort of oversight committee, budgets committee, something in our government that would probably raise a hand and say, excuse me, businesses can start websites for a few $1,000s and have an interactive website, works beautifully. Why $1/2 of $1 billion? And we know, Mr. President, if you say $1/2 of $1 billion, we're probably talking $2 billion. So why do we need $500 million? No one asked that question. What I would like to see is the projected cost of this when they first started. We don't see that. When you see the the news conferences, right? White House conferences, right? When they come, no one asked that question. No one says, why is it $500 million? How did it arrive there? Who's getting paid? Why would it cost that much? Could we see the figures? And the reason why you don't see that is because we have a press that is no longer independent. The press itself is part and parcel of this absolutely corrupt bureaucratic system that we have. Because if they don't play ball, they don't get introduced, they don't get invited to any of the press conferences. They're out. The whole thing is out. So we have a problem where we do not have an independent press. If we had one, we would, of course, have one in which that would ask questions that would be protecting the citizens and not the politician. So those of you who glue yourself to the TV to listen to find out what the latest thing, the latest events are in Washington, you are fooling yourself. You are getting comic book history. I've said this 1,000 times before. But no one is talking how we got here in the first place. Now, there are suspicions. There are suspicions that many, many people, friends of the president, have become multimillionaires because they are aligned with this healthcare system. Now, I had a website totally redesigned for my wife's audiology practice. I don't think it cost $1,000. Beautiful website. It's interactive and everything. It's got everything on it. Now, I understand that you don't have 100 million people calling in and stuff like that, sign up. But could you imagine, just think for a second, Amazon, when they started in the very throes of the Internet era, could you imagine they needed a website that can facilitate the ordering of any product imaginable, shipped from every place imaginable. To me, that seems a lot more complex than this affordable living.
They don't pay the sales tax either.
Yeah, it doesn't figure sales tax, shipping, or anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the consumer buys a product at a lower price over Amazon typically than they would buy it at their local store. It, in fact, enhances the consumer shopping experience, and it costs the consumer absolutely nothing. Now, just think for a second. What if on that initial meeting that they had said, let's have this online ordering system. Oh, by the way, the website's going to cost $500 million. You say how stupid it is? The entire company didn't cost to set up the warehousing, everything didn't cost $500 million. We have a software program that costs $500 million. And by the way, when this is over, we're going to be in the billions of dollars for the software program alone. And now this is the beauty. This is another thing no one is talking about. After these billions of dollars are spent, after people lose their health care, those that have health care are going to be paying more. After physicians get screwed out of their money and decide to quit and go to the used car business, do anything but medicine. After this debacle, right, there'll be a federal investigation, and not one person will pay $1 in fine. Not one person will spend 1 minute in the clink. But God forbid, my granddaughter tries to sell lemonade on her lawn. There'll be literally stormtroopers in full military gear. They'd pick her up, and we wouldn't see her for a month.
For 5 cents, too.
You have to understand that this is not nuts, folks. I mean, it's getting to the point where, let me tell you, we would all be better off. We would be freer if we moved to Russia. This is the most. Let me tell you my take, and this is 100% speculative. I have nothing to back this up. Okay, so don't say, "Well, Joe said this and he's nuts." I am nuts because this government is driving me nuts. Let me tell you that the reason why they have the cost of this so high is because these guys in the inner circle, these bankers that are running the entire show. The bankers run the entire show. They know this whole system is going to collapse. And before it collapses, everyone wants to get their take. They want to get their millions so they can convert these worthless dollars to land overseas, to homes, to something of value. They want the money before the whole system collapses, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And you know what? And I want to put money on it. If any of my listeners want to bet me, just call me at 855-866-1170. We'll put you on the board, and we'll see who wins, okay? Not on to me.
Wow. Give him a hand, ladies.
Oh, jeez.
I'm glad we have a doctor with us tonight. I am really glad we have a doctor in the place tonight. Really.
By the way, he specializes in CPR, thank God. Now, Gary, you had some information. Listen to this, folks.
This is amazing. I was doing a little searching today, saw some stuff on Facebook, and I wanted to verify it. So I go to looking around, and we find out that Michelle Obama's Princeton classmate is a top executive in the company that earned the contract, which they didn't really earn it. They just gave them to him. There was no bidding process. There were 4 companies that bid, and I got this on not, weird sites. I got all this off of legitimate sites, okay? 4 companies did bid on it. I would love to find out if we ever could find out what they bid. I mean, and your figure, $500,000, it's $653 million.
Huh? Some transparency.
What do you mean? I mean,
it's not $500 million. It's $653 million, which is more than that.
Wait.
Way more than $500 million.
No, it's $500 billion.
No, $500 million.
It's $500 billion. They got their 10% take on it.
That's half a trillion.
No, billions. No, trillions. I'm getting confused too.
Yeah. No, they're trillions. No, they got half a billion dollars.
$500 million. $653 million, which is over $500 million.
Oh, yeah. And who got that money?
Well, this little company from Canada. Oh, and I love what they called it. Here's what they called it. Their company is called the CGI Group, right? Out of Canada, but they got an American subsidiary, which is called, and this is perfect, CGI Federal. Makes it like a federal company. Yeah. Isn't that convenient? CGI Federal.
Generated interlace like the Matrix.
So, when they come knocking or they come saying something, you never, this is the government. I can't say anything about that. Whatever you say. Whatever you say.
Federal Reserve Bank. It's not federal. There's no reserves and it's not a bank. And we're going to go to break. You want to take a break now? Let's go there now.
Can you believe that?
I hope this program does take you from thinking to questioning, from questioning to non-acceptance, from non-acceptance to skepticism, skepticism to total independence. I had been mentioning $500,000, then I said $500 million. I meant $500 million was about the cost of this website, not $500 million.
It was inflation.
So you don't send me an email. I corrected myself. Everyone here has corrected me so far. They said I went back and forth. I'm getting confused. But I do want to hear from you, 855-866-1170. Please give us a call anytime. Interrupt us, 855-866-1170. You would think that during a time when we invoke, listen to this, folks, we invoke extraordinary measures to prevent the debt from going over the debt limit. Now, I want not to pay my credit cards anymore. I want to invoke extraordinary measures. I'm not going to send the credit card companies a check. I'm going to send them a letter saying I'm invoking extraordinary measures. I can't pay you, and I expect them to accept that. Would you believe that? For the past 60 days, if you looked at the debt situation, the national debt, it didn't go up. It stayed exactly where it was, just really skimming right along where it was. And I said, well, just how could that happen? All of a sudden it stopped. Well, this is not the only time this has happened. When they realized that they weren't going to make it and the debt was actually going to exceed the limit, they invoke what they call extraordinary measures. Now, I've read about them. They're very complex. It's like withholding payments to states or interest. And it's very complicated. It's convoluted more than anything else. But that's what they did. So this is why as soon as they raised the debt limit, the debt immediately went up, I think, $382 million. Or was that $1 billion? No, $1 million, right? $1 million. I'm getting confused. Millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions. In fact, Dr. Kotlakoff from University of Boston, he's been on my program. Guy's brilliant. He specializes in government debt and stuff like that, worldwide debt. And he said that this is a year ago that our unfunded debt, there's the stuff that we owe, but is not due this year, our long-term debt, minus payments that we anticipate, revenues that we anticipate that we'll be paying for it. So this is a net figure, plus the current debt will be over, listen to this, folks, over, and this is not a mistake, over $250 billion.
Wow.
Why should we care?
That's why. That's why we shouldn't care. They don't want us to care. They're bailing out, but you're not. You're going to left with it. Now, you don't know. You're going to pay for it one way, shape, or form. You know that. Don't kid yourself. You say, well, I don't have any money in the bank. It makes no difference. You will wind up paying for it, and don't ask me how.
It's the world currency there.
Yeah. You will wind up paying for the debasement of the currency.
Don't worry. There'll be good jobs at the coal mines for the Chinese.
So when you think about this government and how they manipulate things to make you feel as if they have things, that they have everything in order, they know what they're doing, just trust them. You can only trust them to screw you. Other than that, you can trust them for absolutely nothing. Let me give you, I brought my doggies, I got two of these little doggies to the grooming place the other day. And when I came out of the store, a car pulled up next to me. It was a white car. It looked like a police car, but it wasn't. And on the side of the car, it said, Department of Cosmetology. And I thought to myself, and there's a hairstylist place next door. They have people going around inspecting, barbershops. They have cars. They have employees doing. And for what purpose? The reason why I bring this up is my wife's an audiologist. She's graduated. She's got all the degrees and all that stuff. But she has to belong to an association in order to practice. Why? No one really knows other than they made the rules this way. Last year, what they do is every year they send you the renewal to renew your certification. And although the certification means nothing because she's graduated, she has got degrees and got the diplomas and all that, she should be able to practice. But no, they don't allow her to practice unless she's got to pay them, another bureaucracy, okay? Anyway, they send it like in September, October. So they put in call up for payment in December because it's due January 1st, and somehow it didn't get paid. They realized this on January 2nd, the day after New Year's Day, right? They called the place and said, we have this invoice here. We're late with it. We'll fax it. We'll do whatever. How do you want to pay? They should just mail it. There's no problem. You've called us. We know, everything's fine. And you've been doing this for 30 years. Been fine. No violations. No problem. So they send the payment in. They receive it a couple of days later. My wife receives a citation from an attorney that's like 20 pages long. Cease and desist practice. Now, could you imagine that? And my wife had to go to court. And they let her off easy. She has to take an ethics course. An ethics course because they don't have the presence of mind to send a reminder because they send you the invoice 4 months in advance. They don't even send you a reminder say, hey, we haven't received your payment yet. No, screw you. We want you to fail so we can collect the money and we can exercise our power over you. Just like the federal government. I love this place. No matter where you go, even in private industry, they are mimicking the way the government works. And I can understand why people want to bail out. And I know people who are highly educated, a heck of a lot smarter than I am, finely educated, good minds, and they want to bail out of the system. And I understand why. In fact, my wife saw her doctor. We were on a plane trip, and she saw him. He says, oh, yeah, I'm bailing out. And he went to some other business, nothing to do with medical. I mean, you can understand the frustration that people have. I have with us, I'm going to stop ranting for a while. Do you mind? Does anyone mind? I want you to call 855. Every one of you go to hell,
But we love you too.
My goodness gracious, I tell you, whatever you do, never hire people from Clown College. It's exactly what you get. I got PhDs from Clown College. You know what I got? A bunch of clowns. That's what I got.
How do you define a clown college?
Yeah. He's one of the clowns. He can't define Clown College. He graduated from there, and he doesn't know what it is. You know?
I thought it was. Never mind.
No, forget about it. Don't even go there. Don't start with me, please. You know, because I have an ethical problem. I have all sorts of ethical questions, I should say. I don't have a problem. Here we have. I have a friend whose father died last week, about last week, a week ago, and I didn't know much about her family, but it was interesting when we had lunch, you know, and she was talking about her father, and he said, you know, he was addicted to prescription drugs. He took overdoses of prescription drugs, and he always prompted the doctors, I need more. And he was a chain smoker. He was in a wheelchair, and he was an alcoholic. And I said, anything else wrong? You know, my goodness. And he lived he died at 68. In fact, he was 2.5 years younger than I am, okay? And he dropped dead. And she had to take care of him. Now, here are a couple of interesting things. Now, I'm not blaming her. Don't get me wrong. This is not blame, but I'm not going to give names out or anything like that. Is that she took care of her father. And she mentioned that she gets a government check for taking care of her father. I said, I don't understand that. You're taking care of your father. Why do you get a government check? She says, well, because if I didn't take care of him, someone else would have to, and it would cost them more money. So they paid me to take care of my father. And I thought that was the most amazing. I've never heard that before. I mean, for me to take care of my own parents, which we had to do. Well, my sister did it. She was in New York. I did very little. I sent checks because I was not there at the time. But to me, it doesn't make any sense that we would pay children to take care of their ailing parents. But here's the problem that I'm having, and I'm going to get Dr. Block in on this one. She said and he was on disability. So the whole family is getting a check. Everyone in the family, in one way, shape, or form. Her sister was getting a check. Everyone was getting a check, except for me, by the way. All right? I get no check. Yeah, I get Social Security, but that's my money. At the beginning of every month, she would get a check from the government because he was on disability. And she said, and with that money, she would buy his cigarettes. No, several cards. She told me several cards of cigarettes. I'm not kidding you. No, I'm not making fun of her. I mean, because this is the way she thought. I mean, and I'm not criticizing. Don't go there. And beer. And she would stock up for the month and would get the check and spend it all on that and come home. And then she would spend her money, of course, trying to buy food for him and cook for him. And I said, well, what did you do that for? And she gave me this blank look, like, what do you mean? She says, because he's an alcoholic and he's a chain smoker. I said, but why? I said, could he go to the store? She said, oh, no, he's an invalid. He can't. She said, you have to carry him everywhere. He's in a wheelchair, or you have to bathe him and everything. I said, then why didn't you just not buy him the liquor and buy him the... She said, because he wants it. Now, just think of that. Here's someone who's getting a government check to take care of someone, her own father. The government is paying him because he's on disability. With that money, he's buying nothing but alcohol.
And she's making him disabled.
Right. Now, here is my question, and we're going to take a hard break. But before the hard break, here's the question I want everyone to think about it. What is the difference between that? Of course, that's what he died of, you know, cirrhosis of the liver and all stuff like that. What is the difference between that and her just getting a gun and shooting him?
Free will.
Really? Well, what is that? No, I understand what you're saying. All right. No, but what really is that? She, in fact, participated in killing her father, although she thought she was doing good for him. Don't get me wrong. She's not a murderer. She's a very wonderful person, by the way. She is a very giving, wonderful person. Too giving, you know? And I thought to myself, I got to think about that. Are we here for the break? Yeah. Can we take the break now? Why don't we do that? I want you to think about it. We're going to discuss that with Dr. Block when we come back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. We have with us Dr. Jerry Block, and he's going to help us with the second half of the show.
You need help.
And
Yeah. The whole country needs help. But right here in this room, you need help. But you have your henchmen. You have your henchmen. I've never been to a radio program. You have your audience right here in the room. In fact, they're overflowing. They're in the next room, in the room over.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'll tell you, I have no one listening, but we have a lot of people here.
You have something. You're doing this for YouTube. You brought your cameraman.
Cameras, yeah. That's right.
So they don't just listen to you; they see you on YouTube.
That's right.
Oh my gosh!
And they still don't agree with me.
Oh, and there's an app for it? A Joe Cristiano app?
Yeah, Liberty Talk Radio.
Wow, pretty soon there'll be a Joe Cristiano doll.
Oh, you have given me an idea. I want to get... No, we're going to do that. Gary, we're going to do that. Well, we're going to have a Joe Cristiano doll, 1995.
No, it'd be a doll for the dashboard, with the heads that work.
Oh, bobbing head.
Yeah.
Would someone call in 855-866-1170? Right here on 1170 KFAQ, and let me know whether you rather have a soft, cuddly doll that you can give your girlfriend or have a bobblehead.
You're not soft and cuddly. You're anything but that.
You're all spikes.
And this is probably the third time I've seen you, Joe. Third time?
Yeah.
Fourth time? Yeah.
Fourth. This is
fourth
the fourth time.
Yeah, I saw you when you were making that movie.
Yeah.
By mistake, they were making that Sunday morning. And I want to know who that guy was. You have such a distinguished face. Oh, my. Don't you folks think? Look at him.
Looks like Charlie Callis.
I'm not going to say anything.
You do.
I never knew that before. It's the first time in my life I've ever
and you're
heard
so
anyone.
expressive. Not only is your voice expressive, but your facial emotion. Wow. So I'm glad that you're watching it instead of listening to it. I mean, that's worth half the program, just seeing your expressions.
Oh, well, thank you.
So when are we getting to the interview here?
Oh, the interview. The interview.
Enough of the accolades for Joe.
Yeah, you want to interview me?
No. No, let him keep on going.
Yeah, because we don't build him up enough.
No, I don't mind.
Joe, your audience says you're going to interview me. What are you going to interview me about?
Because
I'm a real doctor.
I know.
And I'm coy, but I'm not going to bail out of the plane. Was the guy going to bail out of the plane or just bail out of medicine?
No, the bail out of medicine. Oh no, he's not going to bail out of. He did bail. He did done bail. Yeah.
He just quit?
He just quit. He was OBGYN.
How old was he?
Oh, I would say he was in about 35, 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's your wife's fault. Maybe your fault. Because you can't deliver any more her babies. That was your wife's doctor. She can't deliver babies, or at least you're not making babies, are you?
This is
That's
not an
right.
interview.
Yeah, we probably put an end to his practice.
No wonder why he's quitting.
Yeah. I can see that now.
But it is hard for a doc to stay in practice these days. You have to join a group. A group. The group's run by a bureaucracy, not quite like the government, but not that much unlike it. There's a CEO, there's a president, a board of trustees, and you're just one little cog in the wheel, one little cog in that big machine, and you don't get a chance to do your thing. And we're trained as doctors to be rugged individualists, and then we get out there, we have to be pussycats. You have to not disturb the status quo. You have to do what everybody else says. And to treat patients, you can't treat patients the way you think they should be treated. There's guidelines. If A doesn't work, you have to go to B. If B doesn't work, you have to follow the guidelines. When you read an article that last week showed that there was a drug used off-label that could greatly help this disease, you're not allowed to do it because the guidelines say you have to go this way rather than the best way.
I didn't know it was that regimented.
That's right. It's cookbook medicine.
But you're not like that.
It's worse than I thought.
Well,
Doc's not like that.
Well, I'd like to be like that. My personality won't. I mean, I like to be a team player and have a big team.
Yeah.
Well, I do. I have 25, 30 people working for me, but I'm captain of that team.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
But there are organizations, there is the AMA and there's a state medical board, and the same thing would happen to me if I didn't send in my money for my license in time. I would be, get a 20-page thing and take an FDIS course or even worse.
Right.
Now, I have to play that game too.
Yeah. But you're loved by the patients. I tell you, there's a patient response thing on his website type thing.
Club, yeah.
I mean, just fantastic.
I've never been there. Really? The patients love it?
I had to look it up. I did. I looked it up, and I wasn't going to admit that because I never do that.
But
I did in this case because I knew what the answer was going to be. If I thought it was going to be anything but that, I probably wouldn't look it up.
Of course, these are patients that are responding nicely. They're my patients. They like me. But what about the patients that don't? Isn't there another website called Yelp? Have you been to Yelp?
No. Oh, I heard about it. But
Yeah, I haven't been to Yelp
Think
on
about
me
Joe
too.
showing
But
up.
Joe has a Yelp too. You know that. That's where when you bitch and moan about this, that, and the other, they do it on Yelp.
okay, I got to look it up. Okay, I'll do that.
I'm afraid to go there. I bet you see dozens and dozens. It takes 3 months to get an appointment to see me, and then it's
I know.
3 to 4 hours. That's why I said, well, maybe you're going to change doctors. I said, please, though. We're friends now. I want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
So when you come to my office, you have to wait
Yeah.
and wait
Yeah.
and wait and wait. When I get to see you, I'll do a very good job, my very best. Because when I'm in a room with that patient, that's my most important patient right then. I'm oblivious to everything else. But when I go to the next room, she is my most important patient.
And most doctors today, when I have to go to my regular doctor under my plan and whatever, it's time. You know their time. They walk in, they look at their clock, they turn the computer on. What's this, and that? You ask a question. Da-da-da-da. It's so regimented, and thank you very much, and they walk out. And they try to really be helpful, and they want to be personable, but there's just not the time, and because they're not dictating their practice.
It's right. And that's why the patient care is so poor today compared to what it could be, and the program is so broken, and this Affordable Care Act may help, but not much.
How would it help?
They're now going to pay groups of doctors. It started way back in 1945. Henry Kaiser used to make cars. And then
sure. Remember the Kaiser Fraser? Sure.
Yeah.
Love the car.
And
Henry
then Kaiser Permanente, and they built a program where they would self-insure private patients. They have something like 16 million patients, 9 states, and this is a prototype of the so-called affordable care. They save money by protecting that patient. If they were paying that gal and her father, they'd have somebody go in there and say, this is not right. There'd be a home health aide that would go in there and say, he shouldn't smoke, he shouldn't drink, because it's going to save them money. On the other hand, it's not a bad thing for him to smoke himself to death and drink himself to death. The government didn't have to pay after that, so maybe that's what the government really wants. He'll cut his life short.
Right, yeah.
Save a little money.
But you know that probably 50% of a person's health expenses will be spent in his last 2 years of life.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Because once one gets sick and we throw everything at that patient, the patient we know deep down inside as a doctor, he's not going to make it. We don't prolong life. We prolong suffering. We should put our effort into patients that we're really going to help.
Like the cancer treatments, they don't make money off of people that can treat cancer. They make money off of people that will.
Yeah, I have an
cure it.
oncologist friend, and I was asking very seriously, when do you stop treating this cancer? And he says, well, when their insurance runs out. When nobody's there to pay,
That's not
when
very
nobody's
nice.
there to pay for it.
When you think about it, that's not very nice.
Yeah.
But the treatment of some cancers are really worth doing.
Right.
Really worth doing. Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, small cancer. But we treat every cancer like we could cure them, and we know with cancer of the lung that is metastasized, we're not going to get anywhere by treating that patient. In fact, we're going to make his last couple of weeks or months extremely miserable. We prolong his suffering, and it costs billions of dollars. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't treat cancer, but we shouldn't treat cancer the way we are. In fact, you made mention to it, if we live a good life, aside from genetics, it's lifestyle, it's diet, exercise, the air we breathe, the water we drink. Our toxic friends or non-toxic friends are going to determine whether we're going to have diseases. I overheard during the break that you had people just get diseases. You mentioned that
There's 4 or 5 people in my life that just in the last 3 weeks, young men and women who have got these infectious diseases, and they succumb to them and die. I almost lost my operations manager at my office because he got a lung infection. They had to cut a piece of his lung out. He came that close to death. 29 years old, healthy as a horse, young man.
Things do happen. Shit does happen. You know how to say shit in your program?
Well, a lot of it's happened around me lately, and I'm wondering, is there something wrong with our health care?
We have a caller right now. We have a Dr. William Letcher. Dr. Letcher, you're on the air. Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio. Good evening.
Good evening. You have a terrific show. I enjoy listening to you.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell you that I was born here in Oklahoma, and my father was a physician back in the 50s and 60s. He had a unique kind of practice. He answered his own telephone in the office. He did not have a receptionist. He made no appointments. He would triage patients if 2 or 3 would show up at the same time. He would take the sickest one first, and he would do it in front of the other 2 patients so that everybody felt good. He didn't send out any bills. Now, that sounds really crazy, but, back in the 50s and the 60s, doctors were revered unlike they are today. He did make his own decisions. He was able to refer patients out. He is the equivalent of a gatekeeper that we have today. But if not sending out bills, you would think he would go broke. But people felt a sense of responsibility. They come in, Doc, what do I owe you? And he would look at the 3x5 card, which held the entire family's health history and when people came in for vaccinations and so forth, and he would say $35, and they'd either write out a check or cash, and he declared most of the cash and would fiddle with the checks. But the point I'm trying to make is, if each physician would do a little bit of freebie work, we wouldn't have the need of this insurance bureaucracy getting in underneath and forcing doctors to band together in groups, being told by hospitals what to do, being told by insurance companies what to do. That hasn't happened to dentists, I might say. Dentists don't operate out of hospitals. They're entrepreneurs, but physicians are not anymore. I just wanted to make that comment, Joe. I enjoy your program, and I'll take the answer off the air. Okay?
Thank you.
I wish we can go back to that system. It's not that doctors don't want to give things free. I give free all the time. In fact, I've yet to make a buck since I started my practice, since I moved to Tulsa 4 years ago. But I'm 76. I don't have to make any money. Thank God I used to be successful in my little town practice. But it's impossible to run a practice these days. You heard this gentleman's father. He answered his phone. I have 30 people. I have 4 people answering telephones. You just can't do it. And talking about billing, for not only do we bill, we rebill, we rebill to a clearinghouse that has to go to his insurance company, and then not only do they have a insurance company, they have Medicare and another insurance, and you have to wait till Medicare pays the primary, then you bill the secondary. Oh my gosh, it is complicated.
Right. I think the insurance company has ties with the people that make the medication in a way, because what would be the point of just curing something?
Well, we're working on curing, but we're far, far afield from, say, curing cancer unless you get it early. So far as I know, the big pharma is not in bed with the insurance companies, not directly. Maybe one of these days they will. And I know that you folks feel that it is a conspiracy. Big pharma, big insurance companies, big doctor plans like hospitals, and they all work together to gouge the patient to get as much as they can. That's not totally true. Insurance companies are there to make money. Big pharma is there to make money, and hospitals need to keep their bottom line up. There's not very many proprietary hospitals, St. John's, St. Francis, But, they spend so much money for bricks and mortars. You see what's happening in St. Francis?
Oh, God,
Do they really need to spend $500 million?
Sidewalk. They're going to spill out on the sidewalk.
And you really don't need that for good medical care. That gentleman's father practiced good medicine, and his edifice probably was, 10 cents a square foot instead of $1,000 a square foot.
Yeah.
You don't need all that bricks and mortar. You need good people, you need a good system, and you can practice good medicine.
Yeah.
So there's a telephone call.
Yeah, let's take another call. Lloyd from Henrietta. Lloyd, thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio here on 1170 KFAQ. You have a question or comment?
Yeah. I'm glad Dr. Block is there. I listen to him from time to time, and like your previous caller was commenting, I was wondering if with the imposition of this Affordable Care Act, that maybe this would be the dawning of an opportunity for people to go kind of underground and into the catacombs and back alleys and practice medicine, without doing that. Does Dr. Block, do you see any movement in that direction?
I think it's going to be movement away from that direction. The Accountability Organization is a group of doctors of which they're going to get paid for performance, paid for value. And to do this, they need to document everything. So as you know now, it's mandated that by 2014, June, that we have to be EMR, electronic medical records. And to start an EMR, you just can't do it just one doctor. You need a system of doctors, $150,000 to start up, and you just can't do that in the back alleys. You need a whole group, and they're talking about at least 5,000 patients on the panel to start getting some of that money. Now, they are trying to promote primary care doctors. Here recently, primary care doctors were in the bottom of the financial barrel. Surgeons could make $500,000, $1 million a year. Primary care doctors, if they can make $150,000 a year, that sounds a lot to everybody, but it's 12, 14 years in education, and they should be able to make what an engineer makes. Yeah. But so they're trying to up people to go in primary care. Nobody wants to go in primary care anymore because you're treated like shit. They pay you like shit. And you feel like shit at the end of the day, except I love it. And I would work in shit just to be a doctor.
Well, I think all of this is going to take away those primary care doctors who have small practices in rural areas and even in town. I go to a doctor, Scott. He's one doctor. He's a DO. He's a great diagnostician. He knows when to send us, our family members, to somebody, who's a specialist. But he always diagnose it before and then they confirm it's what they do. And he's one guy with two girls in the office, and I can walk in and talk to the girls, and sometimes they can just call back and say, "Hey, Gary's here. Do you want to see him now? Do you want to set an appointment for next week?" And it's wonderful.
And that's the way it used to
wonderful.
be. And I'm glad you said he's a DO. I'm an MD. Mm-hmm. I do have an appointment in the DO school. But DOs tend to be more humanistic. We don't walk around with their noses in the air like MDs do. MD's a medical deity. I mean, but really, okay. We think, and don't question me, the doctor, because I know I went to medical school. Gee, it's the patient that should be making decisions, not the doctor. All right, we could be a partner. We could partner and make the decision together.
How are they going to fare during all of this centralized medicine?
The patient?
No, the smaller doctors like him.
Oh, they're going to have to go out. They're going to go out. Your doctor, does he do EMR? Does he have a computer when he sits down and talks to you?
No. He's got the old chart. He writes it down. He looks through it. And like an old-fashioned
insurance will not pay. First, it's going to start with Medicare and all the new things that are starting with when you try to get on the program. And if he doesn't have EMR, he will not get paid.
He's got girls in the office, and he's starting to use computers.
So he's starting to do that.
But he doesn't have one in his hand.
And this fragments your relationship with the doctor. Like you were saying, Joe, he's working on the computer and looking at this, he's not looking at you because you got
He's a very good doctor. My doctor, I love him. I mean, he's a friend. He's become a friend of
So I'm trying to walk both sides of the street. I have a Scribe. I go in the office and there's a young lady that sits next to me or behind me. It's not in the patient's way, not in her line. And I talk to the patient and she scribes.
My dermatologist does that. Yeah.
And I give that patient what we talked about. Many times you see a doctor and they go into all this, and by the time you leave, your head's confused. What are you supposed to do? And the medicine, he talked about this, but here it is all on paper. So not only is it documented on the chart, but the patient has something in his hand. And moreover, they have a portal to their chart. So anytime we draw blood, we do laboratory tests, and it's posted the chart within 24, 48 hours. So by portal, they can go look at their own laboratory. I think it is helping. Yeah. It is helping. Yeah.
We still have, by the way,
is that
we still have Lloyd on the phone.
Oh,
Lloyd,
my God.
Yeah, you want to join this conversation? Or?
Well, I don't think you quite got what I was getting at. I was wondering if he had seen any signs of people kind of going black market style, speakeasy, catacombs, and, going illegal way. If there are going to be any doctors you think would be going that route where people could bypass the bureaucratic system?
Could I add something to that? I think that for me, I trust more than a doctor. I trust WebMDcom.
Oh, my God.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said. They know more than the doc. You get what the average doc knows, and you make your decision. I think you're right. But as far as doctors doing it on the side, like Speakeasy of yesteryear, there is the doctor mafia. Just like what happened to Joe's wife, they're going to come look and he's practicing without a license. They're going to take him away and throw him in the who's car. Now, there's a lot of medicine that is practiced by non-physicians. Every family has somebody that really knows, somebody who went to medical school or was a pharmaceutical representative, and they ask them all their medical problems. But to have an organized somebody that's charging money, I don't think there'll be much of that in the future.
Okay. Lloyd, we're coming to the end of our program. I want to thank you very much for calling in with your questions, okay? And I do hope we hear from you again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Doc, we have about 1 minute to go, don't we? Yeah. Doc, is there anything that you want to say or tell the audience
I think we did pretty good today. We'll be on the radio tomorrow, and
you mean you're still inviting me, or
yeah, we're still friends. We're still friends. In fact, I like his attitude. You don't take crap from anybody, do you?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being our guest this evening. And folks, I want to thank our sponsors for their financial support. And we want to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. And with that, I'm Joe Cristiano. This is Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. Stay well, stay tuned.
I would